Hi, everybody. Ling and I are live here, and we are going to chat about her story in the book Ancient Healings, Modern Miracles, and how she broke the cycle of abusive and manipulative relationships. And we're also going to chat just in general about how our work in the lineage of King Solomon helps people have healthier romantic relationships. So let's do some brief introductions. So I'm Dawn Ressel. I'm a guide and healer and teacher in the Modern Mystery School. And Ling is my dear friend and colleague. Ling, what would you like to say about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ling, and I was born and raised in Vietnam, and I've been living here in the US for more than a decade. I'm also a certified guide, ritual master, a live activation practitioner, teacher, and healer in the Modern Mystery School in the lineage of King Solomon.
Great. So Ling, without going too much into detail, because we want people to read your full story in the book and get the whole benefit of it. But just briefly, tell us a little bit about the overview of your story in this book.
So I think this is a story that many people can relate, and thank you, Dawn, for the question. I grew up, and I grew up in Vietnam, but I think even in the US here too, there's already was a template of how relationships should be. And I could see how people around me were not really, they did not feel safe in their relationship. They did not feel safe in themselves, and they just did not have joy or have that fulfillment in not just romantic relationship, but in most relationships in their life. And I remember thinking that sucked, because especially as when you were little, you were so much more connected to, the higher power, to God, to source, whatever you want to call it. And so because I had that, I think as a child, I had that viewpoint looking and then seeing, oh my gosh, the physical world is not what I thought it would be. So it was really hard. And then at the same time, right, as a child, you kind of like a blank paper. So you learn whatever people around you are doing. And I kind of also pick up a lot of those, I would say, dysfunctional patterns about how a woman should be, how a man should be, how a relationship should be. And I repeated that throughout my 20s. I'm still in my 20s, but throughout the earlier of my 20s. And I went through a lot of heartbreaks.
You did. And, I want to fast forward to today because you're in a really healthy, successful relationship. So how did that happen? How did you get there?
I would say one of the big key in how, I feel very blessed, and I feel very, very lucky that, me and my boyfriend, we have what we have right now. Of course, there's always room to grow, but it started off with a strong foundation. And I think the big key was that each of us, we met when we were way younger, has our own stuff, but still each of us were already stepped on that foundation of knowing that we are the creator of our lives, that we are ultimately responsible for what we're creating. And so every time hardships comes up, or every argument that comes up, instead of kind of blaming the other person, or just wanting the other person to be a different way so that your relationship will be better, right? Putting the responsibility on somebody else. For me, I can't speak for him because, I'm not him, but I can say for me that it's always been about practice of remembering, wait a minute, he's showing me what it is that I'm avoiding or I'm rejecting. He's the biggest mirror of me because he's the closest one to me. And so if we're having an argument or whatever it is I can accept, okay, this is something in me that I have to heal. And I would say, and I mentioned the book, that's one of the way I can, I've been able to not avoid, but I guess we don't even have to deal with a lot of conflicts, is because when you have resolved the conflicts within you, then the outer, need less, need to work through less. Of course, we still have conflicts, but most of the time I always come first. Okay, what's within me? Why am I feeling this way? Blah blah blah. And then once I resolve that, and then if we have to talk about it, It's just like, okay, cool, just like being two adults dealing with something.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up so many good points. I mean, the points I want to really re-emphasize are the fact that any relationship, particularly a romantic relationship, is going to act as a mirror to us and show us our own weaknesses and also our strengths too, right? It's a mirror of who we truly are, and those relationships give us more of a 360 view of who we really are. But also the personal responsibility aspect, because there's a lot of blaming and shaming and nagging. There's a lot of negative things that can happen in a relationship where it's more about me pointing the finger at the other person. And you're saying we have to come into this relationship as strong individuals and then take responsibility for our own stuff, right? In order to create a healthy relationship. And I think that's so important. So I also have a story in the book that's related to relationships, but mine is more about overcoming my past of being in a codependent marriage. And I'm not in a relationship right now. And I talk about that in the book, why I'm not, and, all the things I've been working on in myself to be prepared, to be in a healthy relationship. So I wanted to just have a chat about, from two different perspectives of, you are in a healthy relationship, I am a single person, like how we feel the lineage of King Solomon really helps people create healthy relationships and or prepare themselves to be in a healthy relationship. So I'll let you start, and then I'll chime in what I think.
That's a good question. So one thing I want to kind of mention briefly before is, I think some people may feel, whoever's watching, you may feel like you have to be at a certain like perfection to be able to meet your partner. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Like it's, and so it's not the case. And hopefully I'll drive back to this point. But yeah, so what I really, my boyfriend and I were both initiates in the school. He's been on the path years more than I have. And so what I really appreciate about the path is, and actually there's a path right there, is that it provides you the foundation of, out there you can hear people saying, oh my God, you're responsible for your life, whatever, right? You can hear that and you think you understand, but what does that really mean? What does that really look like in everyday life? Like in every single moment, second to second, what does it mean to live as a creator of your life, as truly being responsible? And so the path gives you a structure to really and truly see that clearly. Oh my gosh, I did this today, and I see something that the result is not what I thought. And so it gives you the structure, and give you the tool to deal with whatever mess that not mess, but whatever issue that may come up. And so that's what I meant by that foundation of understanding, right? And then the rest, you can work on it as a single person or together. It's not really an issue, but the path gives me that, and it continues giving me. It's funny how we can both teach the Empower Thyself class. I don't know that one. And every time I either take Empower Thyself, audit the class, or I teach the class, it reminds me of how important the foundation is, of just knowing who you are and be able to apply that when you wake up in the morning until when you go to sleep at night. Yeah, so I think if you can find two individuals that have that basic understanding and that have that desire to apply it in their life, and then you have attraction that hopefully, I think that'll make a and also of course, right, like you can never tell when it's the right time. Like there's also kind of divine timing as well. And so yeah, the path gives me the purpose, like something bigger than myself and also bigger than my relationship to focus on and to move towards. And that also helps help benefit both of us. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think, one thing I want to say for those people who are not involved with the Modern Mysteries School, or just maybe just hearing about it or haven't, done much with it, they may not know that the whole, I would say, the edict of the Modern Mysteries School in this path is to know thyself. And so every single step that we take on this path is to help us know ourselves better and know our divine self better and embody more of our divinity and our higher self. And so every activation, every step of initiation furthers us in that progression. And then we also have Universal Hermetic Ray Kabbalah, which helps us clear our subconscious, which gets us out of those patterns, those automatic reactions, that are just not really us, but us kind of self-sabotaging or just reacting from a place of old trauma or old wounds. And that can really show up in a relationship, right? And so we want to clear that as much as possible in order to have that healthy relationship. But from my point of view, as someone who's not currently in a relationship, I want to say the path has helped me so much with self-love and self-acceptance. And I think you can't really have a healthy romantic relationship if you don't also love yourself, if you don't have that acceptance of yourself, and also if you don't have clear awareness of who you are and what you want. Because as I've been on this path and I've seen, watched myself in my journey of dating, for example, every time I meet someone who's a potential, romantic interest, they mirror something back about myself, even if it doesn't end up, being a full relationship. It might just be a date, and then we decide we're not a match, whatever. But there's always something that's mirrored back to me about myself. And it helps me learn more about myself. And when you have that level of openness and willingness to learn, and curiosity, I think, is really also very important. That curiosity of just wanting to know, who am I really? And I found that the path drives me forward in that respect so much. All of these tools that we use on a daily basis, the rituals, the meditations, and then the initiations are supporting us in holding more light and more capacity for light. And so it brings more light to our self-awareness, as well as more light to how we're interacting with others in the world. And they can also see their reflection better as well. So it's kind of interesting, I think, how this path, it impacts us as individuals, but it also creates a positive ripple effect in all of our relationships, romantic, family, community, work, etc. I mean, what do you think about that, Ling?
For sure, because when you know yourself and know yourself more than just its physical body, when you know yourself as the creator of your life, then you will learn to have, like you mentioned, you have more self-love. And when you have more self-love, then that love just kind of pour out to everybody else. So of course, I think one of the indicator that something is let's say good for you, something is good for you, is do the end results kind of end up in you having better relationships with those around you, and it may look differently for different people. And something that when you were talking kind of came up for me is that, what I really love about the fact that how both me and my boyfriend are on the path is that there's kind of like a reflection back and forth. And so even though we have our own lives, we have our different purpose, the way we do it look very differently. But I could see, just like through our day-to-day, I can see that when he grows, I also grow. And when I grow, he also grows. And even though, again, the outward expressions are different, but because I guess, we have our own connection, but also we have, I would say, the structure for the light to flow through the path, then it's we kind of be able to really grow together, which is, I think, a hugely important thing in a relationship. Like, how do you even stay with somebody for 30, 50, 60 years, right? You have to learn to grow together, and you have to learn to continue getting to know that person over and over and over again. And so I think this path really helps both us with both changing ourselves, but also be able to adapt and getting to know ourselves and the other person over and over again.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a great summary. I have one last question for you, which is what advice would you have for someone who's currently in a relationship and wants to make their relationship stronger and is curious about how spirituality can help with that?
That's a good question. So first thing is, it may just be me, but I think there are people who feel this way. You know, when you see something wrong in a relationship, you want to break it off, right? Because you think it doesn't work, whatever. I would say first thing is, I believe that all relationships can be changed for the better. Sometimes it may require breaking up, but you know, like a lot of times it's just take two people willing to change and to grow to make it work. And so if you're somebody in a relationship and it may be already a great one and you just want to make it better, the key, in my experience, has always been yourself, right? Are you, especially as a woman, but as anybody, are you taking good care of yourself? Are you following your purpose, which I think is huge, because you need to have something greater than yourself and even greater than your relationship. You need to be working for something bigger than that, for to be able to get through the tough times, I feel. I don't know, I hope I'm not rambling, but yeah, so and the path, the mystical school path, can help you find that purpose, that fire within, what it is that you want to be bringing out to the world as an individual and also as a couple. And I think if you find that through the process of knowing thyself, then it's gonna be feel bringing, you know, like when you put that out, and then it's gonna be feel bringing into both of your relationship and bring both of you together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I just want to give similar kind of advice for someone who's single at the moment, and how spirituality, and particularly this path that Lei and I are a part of, the lineage of King Solomon with the Modern Mystery School, can help, is that continual process of loving yourself, accepting yourself, letting go of things that don't serve you. And the more that we do that, the more that we work on ourselves, the more we're going to be in a position to attract someone into our lives that's at the caliber, you know, that we're really hoping for in our heart, and is a good match for us, because we don't even know who's a good match for us if we don't know ourselves, right? So, you know, doing the work on ourselves is first and foremost. And then I also wanted to say, like, this path has helped me so much with trusting myself and having a practice that teaches me about discipline. And the more that I am disciplined and the more that I stick to my word and create integrity within myself, the more I trust myself. And that has allowed me to open myself up to trusting others as well. And so I think you can't really trust other people if you don't trust yourself first and foremost, right? Because we are all one. And if we are reflecting out into the world that we don't trust ourselves, other people won't trust us, and then it's harder for us to trust other people. And it's so hard to have a relationship and to attract someone into our lives if we don't have that foundation of trust. And I know for me also, this school has given me, particularly on the ritual master path, so many important teachings about the divine feminine and divine masculine energies, how they're distinct and different from each other, how they can support each other and work to co-create in harmony, and helps me better embody more of that divine feminine energy. So that way I'm not out there, you know, leading with my divine, you know, leading with masculine energy, which then, you know, is not going to attract the right person into my life as a woman who wants a male partner, right? I want a male partner. Well, they're going to want a strong man, is going to want a woman who is embodying their femininity first and foremost, right? And so I think the path has really helped me heal a lot of that, of my feeling that I need to lead with my masculine energy, which was kind of ingrained in me, I think, working in corporate America for a long time. And yeah, so that's another piece I wanted to add in. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Ling, about this topic before we close out and remind people about the book?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dawn, for this opportunity to share about the path and about the book. And I definitely, I think it was interesting to see because see what you shared about the path regarding in this topic and what I share, and I'm like, oh, this is so great. It's so because it's so different as well. So yeah, I as I mentioned before, like, this path, and one of the things I love about the path is that because the focus is know yourself, know your purpose, working on yourself, like self-trust, self-love, all that stuff. I got to a point where I didn't, like, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I needed a man. It's not like I'd say I don't need a man, but like it was just like that softness, surrendering of, oh, it's not even really on my mind that I'm like want somebody. And that was when he came to me. And I got into that state because I was serving. I was like doing live activation. I was teaching. I was getting out there, talking to people and doing what I love. And so, that's what I, maybe hopefully I can share that experience, and maybe, you and anybody else who wants a partner, like it's focus on yourself, work on your, whatever it is that you desire, stay open. And then at some point it's going to happen, probably when you least expect it, because I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, and I think this path also helps people to reawaken passion in their lives and passion for a mission. But that passion can extend to all aspects of our lives. And so if we're already passionate about living life and we're passionate about our mission, that's just going to transfer over into everything, including our romantic relationships. So I felt like I wanted to add that little last piece. Now, you can check out Ling's story about how she overcame abusive and manipulative relationships in the book, Ancient Healings, Modern Miracles. I'll post the link where you can get that in the comments section. My story on overcoming codependency is also in there, and as well as 22 other stories of how people have overcome and triumphed in their lives and overcome major obstacles through the work of the lineage of King Salomon, which Ling and I help people with. So I will put the link to the book. I'll put links, a link to her page. You can check her out. She's in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm in San Diego. So feel free to reach out to either one of us. And if you're not in either of those areas, we're also happy to direct you to someone in your local area who can help you. So thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.